Hey guys, I'm gonna do a quick shave. Nacet, big old Nacet with a bunch of uses. 210 plus however many dots are on this inside fold here is how many I've used so far. So today is 212. Mitchell's wool fat. I love this ceramic vintage look, vintage looking tub that Mitchell's has. Got a good deal on it a while back, and it just gives good vibes about whole shaving experience and connecting with history and that sort of thing. I definitely like more of a vintage theme. A lot of guys like contemporary stuff, and that's just fine. I'm a little bit more vintage. I do have several contemporary razors though, and this is the timeless 68 gap open comb, as you can obviously see. The scalloped cap, if you're new, the scalloped cap up here, that doesn't mean open comb. It just happens to match the look of the open comb down here on the bottom base plate. And inside it, it has the Nacet blade. I'll show it to you in a minute. 2000. This is the 2000 model Semogue Boar brush. It was a big splaying Boar brush. I might not mind that at all if I did not have facial hair. But since I do, I needed to narrow it down a little bit. So that's why we've got some O-rings right here. Maybe someday I'll find some white ones and replace these guys. O-rings are a nice solution since they can be removed just as even easier than they're put on. I've had it soaking for several minutes. Somebody just got a 2000. Was it Jeff? Online friend of mine, acquaintance, and a fellow shaver. And so I decided to pick the 2000 today. And he's going to be just starting his journey with it. Maybe his first Boar. I don't know. But I recommend this one. This is one of my favorites of the Boars that I've got. All right. So I'm going to throw a little water on my face. Little bit more than 1 day of growth today. Cool water, cool to tepid is what I'll be using, and my water is on the hard side. Okay, I did pour, just a few minutes ago, I did pour a little bit of water here on top of the soap. This is a hard soap, and so I do actually bloom it, soak it prior to the shave for just a little bit, not too long. So I'm going to shake, my technique is just to shake most of the water off the brush. And then I can track how much water I add and then be able to communicate that to people so that they can duplicate it if they're having problems with their lathers. And it might get them in the ballpark of a good lather. But if you are doing it, I recommend maybe doing one shake once you pull your brush out of the water. Then you've got some water in your brush, and that's kind of a head start and is often very good to shortening your lather building time. All right, now let's load this guy for 40 seconds just because I can't remember the load time. 30 is probably plenty, but just for grins we'll do 40. And also there is a one of my viewers on YouTube kind of made a request because they had gotten some Mitchell's wool fat and weren't really having an easy time getting it loading. So I do recommend, I like to soak it. You don't have to soak it, but it reduces the load time, and I like that. Mitchell's is one that'll crack, and if you don't use it very often. And there is 40 seconds. I started on 29 and I went to 09. So there we go. So that's how I'm dripping. So I was having to be a little careful with how close I get it to the phone, but it turns out it's fine. All right, now I personally like to rinse, and this is totally normal. Rinse off the sides because it's just easiest to do right now than later. And this scent on this one, I'm really glad to oblige. Man, I wish I could remember which user it was that requested the Mitchell's. I'm glad to oblige because I really like the performance of this soap. And It's my 3D printed lather bowl from Roger Quintero. He designed it and he put the files up online to print it yourself if you want. And the link to those is in the description of my video. So without really adding any water yet, I like to start working the lather. Mitchell's may be one where you can just go ahead and dump. If you knew somehow that it's 3 teaspoons of water that makes a good lather for you, you may be able to just dump it all in the beginning. Some soaps you have to add it slowly. Some people do, I have read, have problems loading this soap. I don't believe I ever have, so it just must be, you know, my technique just kind of matches whatever the soap needs. Put in 1 teaspoon of water. Didn't look at my notes to see what my last ratio was, but it's okay, we'll just eyeball it. It seems to be more of a high structure lather. Look at the way it's holding up on the sides. Let's see. See that little weird formation right there with the horns? You know, that shows some structure to it. Add another teaspoon, so now we've got 2 in there. And when it has that kind of structure, I know it's not quite up to my preferences in terms of water. I know that I'm going to need to add some more. I keep the Mitchell's in my bathroom here because I just love the look. It's one of the few. I think I only have this one and the Fine Santal Absolute here in the bathroom because I wanted to use Mitchell's a little bit more, and I love the Fine. It's one of my favorite scents, and I love the performance of that one too. So after 2 teaspoons, we're starting to see more volume. And we'll go ahead and get a little aggressive and put in another whole teaspoon. Normally I might switch to half teaspoon increments at this point. I think this soap feels really good on your skin. I really like it. I also use it, another reason I have it in here is every once in a while with some of the little boars that I'm working on, trying to train and stuff, I'll do practice lathers, and I like to use the Mitchell's for that. I know the puck's gonna last forever, so. Okay. And so our volume continues to increase. It's able to hold up its weight without too much of a problem. Let's feel of it. Yeah, you got that nice slickness. Now I'll just add it by half increments now. It's possible right now it could give me a really good shave. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, Mitchell's is one that if you don't use very often, it can crack and shrink in the tub, you know, in whatever container it's in, and that's normal. Some people will then shred it and then repress it back into the container. You know, that might work, but I think again, if you just don't use it for a while, it's still gonna shrink a little bit. Obviously, if you use it every day, then your load time can be reduced because it's going to retain some of that water. I haven't use this. Actually, like I said, I've been using it for kind of break-in lathers and things like that. So I used it just maybe 3 or 4 days ago. So we've got tons of lather, 40 seconds. Looks like way more than we needed to get. Look at that. Take a little feel here again. Oh yeah, nice and creamy with nice slickness. You know, I think I'm gonna use this right here. Just want to get a good mix. I can always add more water during the shave if I need to. Just making sure I don't have any wet spots or dry spots here. Get a nice even mix. And with I'm pressing the boar down in there. A couple of reasons: to make sure that if there's any extra water that's in the near the base of the knot, that it can be combined with the soap and lather and stuff and not be flushed out later on during the shave. And also to just press the lather into that area so that it doesn't run out of lather when I'm applying it on my face. All right, I think we're good. Throw a little water on my face. Oh yeah, let me show you the consistency, because even if you choose not to add water the same way I do, there are many different ways to get to this consistency. I'm not saying my way is the only way by any means. Excuse me. If I get this whole clod on my brush and I shake it, you'll be able to see what kind of peaks we get. That can help you know what kind of consistency you have. Look how it supports itself. It's not really a super wet lather because that peak is not drooping over. Also, you can kind of pull it to the bottom of your bowl and then lift it up and look at the elasticity there. That's pretty cool. Let's just try this. I may end up adding more water, but that was a nice flop there, nice long stretch, and sometimes that means it's right where I want it. And see, look at that, with just a few swipes, this brush covers the whole side of my face. So that is definitely why I put those O-rings on there, to rein it in just a little bit. I could even see potentially putting another O-ring on there. So that's my technique with lathering. Mitchell's wool fat. Now let's just see what happens if I add a little bit more water to the brush here. Is it going to get creamier? Is it going to multiply the lather? If so, then I probably needed to add a little bit more water than I did. Is it just going to thin out? Well, it's not flying off of my brush. That's a good sign. Because if I put this on my face and I add water, and I like the way the lather changes when I add water, then I can add more water to my bowl and know that I am going to get something even better in than what I've already made. Yeah, I think it did need a little bit more. Plenty of lather I have today. So we've got 4 teaspoons in the lather, with half a teaspoon being just in the first pass. So I'm going to add another whole teaspoon, why not, to the bowl. And that's like adding a half teaspoon to the second pass and then a half teaspoon to the third pass. And we'll see if I'm rewarded with an even creamier mix. This feels great on my face. Nice slick soap. I'm going to show you the stretch and stuff once I get this combined, so we'll see if it's any different than what I showed you a second ago. Should be. That is some elastic lather. This stuff can hold water nicely. Now look, see the way it folds over when I tilted it, so that showed you a little bit more of the elasticity there. Not quite able to support its own weight. And this, I bet this lather could take even more water if I wanted to. All right, let's shave this off. So, use number 212. Oh, let me show you the Nacet before I start. It's upside down, but here's that little X mark I put on it last year to verify that it's the same blade. It's not the full X because it's been worn away, so it's just 2 of the legs of the X. All right. Tuggy, since I'm going a little bit more than 1 day of growth, but it's not painful, just a little tuggy. And I definitely would have replaced this blade if I wasn't just so curious as to how many usable shaves can I get out of a blade. There we go. I didn't get a whole lot of hairs because that first pass with this old blade with a longer growth is less effectual than a shorter day's growth. But that's all right. The future passes will make up for it without a problem. Okay, let's load her up. So I think that we've got 5 teaspoons of water in this lather. You could go more if you wanted a wetter lather. You could go less if you wanted it a little thicker, a little creamier. I enjoyed this soap. It's an economical soap. The refill puck doesn't cost too much, and you can, it's kind of expensive if you get the ceramic bowl. Not custom, but the, you know, the proprietary one that I've got. I happened to get a deal on it a while back, so I went ahead and got it. But with this puck, I think I've seen it for like 11 or 12 bucks in some locations, and it'll give you a lot of good shaves. And so it's a very economical option. Cross grain now. Not going to buff too much since we still have some bristles that kind of need to be mowed down before we start buffing. Staying mainly with the grain or slightly with the grain to minimize irritation, things like that. Now after this, it's going to be a more normal shave and a third pass, and probably all I'm going to need, and my usual touch-up pass on the neck. All right, there's a rinse, partial rinse. Don't need to rinse it all the way, just some, and that one felt nice and slick. The first rinse really didn't, but that is normal since I have oily skin, and often the first pass rinse is more of a wash and not really super luxurious and creamy due to my oily skin minimizing the lather a little bit. I consider that first pass to kind of be my pre-shave. And there we go. This is a wonderful brush. Really enjoy it. Now a proper cross grain with maybe a little buffing to make sure that I get those hairs very comfortable. Nice glide. This is a good soap. It does have lanolin, I believe, and so those with lanolin sensitivities, but you probably gathered that from the name, wool fat. Nice, easy, comfy pass. And now simply a neck pass just to kind of clean up things. Unless I got lucky. No, a little bit more stubble in that trouble spot area. And 30 seconds it would have definitely given me plenty of lather. I've probably got 2 or 3 extra passes here from that 40-second load. If you want, you can try loading without soaking it. Definitely some guys who do that, even on these hard soaps. You may find you need to load for 40 seconds on an unsoaked puck versus 20 seconds on a soaked puck. So, you know, you can see which one you like better. Since I load on I habitually lathered my whole face, so my cheeks are getting a 4th pass too today. Since I let it soak for just a few minutes, I don't mind soaking it. Some guys who may want to soak it for longer, I mean, I could see how that would get in the way of a good, even, a good streamlined process, you know. I could see how that would be troublesome. All right. All right, let's rinse it off. And I've been getting nice, slick, luxurious feeling rinses. Maybe not as much as sometimes what I'm able to get, and so to help that I could reduce the water a little bit, not have it quite so loosey-goosey. And there we go. Very nice shave. Pretty good closeness right here. Several that I see some length on. No big deal. And wow, yeah, let's take a look at how much lather I have left over. If this was a good lather, nice and slick like I was saying during the rinses, I bet I could do 3 passes with what's left over here. So that's a lot of lather. Like I was saying, I could go wetter if I really wanted a super slick wet lather. This is kind of right between maybe a really wet performance lather and a creamy, more luxurious, comfortable lather. Right here might be right kind of in the midpoint. So a little bit more water to get one, a little bit less water to get it a little bit more creamy and kind of extra luxurious. But the 2000 worked really well with this soap, stirred it up no problem. For today's post shave, I'm going to use this. Don't use it too often. It's Thayers Witch Hazel, and I like to do the spray bottle and spray it on my hand, and then less of it is kind of drips through my fingers that way. This is the alcohol-free Unscented. It's mostly aloe from what I understand, but it's got a little bit of witch hazel in there. All right, so total of 5 teaspoons of water used today, and so that might help somebody who's having trouble with their Mitchell's wool fat lathers. Obviously, if you take your brush out of the water and leave some water in it and maybe give it 1 or 2 shakes so that you can load wet, obviously you need to subtract some of that out of that 5 teaspoons to try to approximate and get close enough. But if somebody's having trouble, I find that these objective measurements might help them to get close to a good lather if they're a little mystified. All right, well, I have the puzzle nearby. I almost used it, but I decided to take a break. That's a good scent. And decided to use Mitchell wool fat. Kind of got a request for that, and I also haven't shaved it for a long time. I've been doing all these practice lathers with it, and then looking at the lathers and going, oh man, that feels so good. I wish I could just shave with it. So I fulfilled that today as well. All right, I'm gonna clean up and I'll be back. All right, well, we're good for today. Face feels great. I've got no irritation. I've got a good cut, comfortable. And so that's 212 now on the Nacet. Man, I don't know when it's gonna give up, but we'll see. All right, well, this is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I sure hope there's something that's been here in this video to help you out. You take care. Have a good day. Bye.